YouTube is up. Dog is going crazy. And Facebook. Good Wednesday afternoon, everybody. Welcome into StormTrack 8 University Live. This is day 21. We're going to be talking about weather forecasting instruments. Oh my goodness, it's only 5 seconds in and I can't talk already. This isn't going to go good. No, but hope everybody's good. Happy Wednesday. We've got Meteorologist Morgan Strackbein joining us, as we always do, usually every Wednesday here. Been a crazy week weather-wise. I don't know about you, Morgan, but I miss what we had on Monday, I think it was, wasn't it? When we had 71.
Yes, it was beautiful, and luckily not going to be too far away until we get beautiful weather again. But I'm just ready for it to be beautiful constantly. I don't want to deal with this cold anymore.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm ready for the warmer air to just lock itself in. And we know it's that time of year. It's going to take some time. Number of weeks yet to go before we can comfortably lock in those nice warm temperatures. But I like what the forecast is showing for the rest of the week. Not so much today and tomorrow, but the rest of the week looking really nice.
Yes, very nice, especially this weekend, which I say on air all the time. The weekend is when we would want it to be nice and dry and sunny and warm.
Yes, and that's exactly what's going to happen as we head into the Easter weekend here. So we'll give you a little preview of that. We are seeing the clouds start to move in from the north, and there's a small chance, a very small chance, maybe like 2% chance that you get what Eric Sorensen calls a frinkle out of some of these clouds, which is like a combination of a flurry or a sprinkle because it's cold enough upstairs that some of this is remaining snow form. But nothing to be worried about. In fact, a lot of this is probably just going to dry up before it even reaches the ground. But yeah, it's much colder than where things sat the last couple of days.
Yes, absolutely. You can feel it. It's starting to, I just noticed within the past half hour, the winds really have picked up. Or maybe it's just something I haven't paid attention to, but I can definitely see it gusting a lot more now.
Yeah, we can't shake the wind. We've had this wind for a number of days now, and that's just kind of very common to this time of year. But the wind isn't bad when it's warm out, but you got a day like today when we're stuck in the 40s and you actually deal with a wind chill because it's so cold. So that's the unfortunate side effect of the wind with these kind of temperatures. But look at what's coming in the days ahead. I mean, Easter Sunday, it's warm. It's not going to be the warmest Easter Sunday we've seen. In fact, I went back and looked at the records last night. 2019, we had a high of 81 degrees. Last year, for 2020, it was 69 degrees. So we've had several mild Easter Sundays, and it looks like this year is not going to be an exception to that.
Which will be very great, especially, with COVID still going on. If you want to get together with family, you can hang outside and not even have to worry all that much. So definitely going to spend a lot of time outside this weekend. I mean, Saturday and Sunday, both beautiful. I cannot complain about this.
Yeah, and you are so right with that point, too, that this is going to allow families to actually gather outdoors in kind of a safer manner, if you will. I know a lot of us haven't gotten the vaccine yet, and we're very hesitant to go see family members, but at least this gives you the opportunity to at least be in their company because you can be outside and you're not stuck inside. So that's a great point. So we're going to get started here in just a moment, but first a programming note. We are expecting to have a live news conference coming up at 1:45. I know a lot of people have been following the remains situation that was found. Remind me, Morgan, was it near DeWitt, I think it was? Yeah.
It was Clinton.
Clinton, yeah. Okay, so up in Clinton, the remains were found there. They're actually going to have a press conference. I believe it's the Davenport Police Department at 1:45. As of right now, we're planning to take that live, not only here on Facebook, but we'll also have it live on the air from the chat that I'm seeing from our newsroom. So 1:45 press conference. Davenport Police is going to be releasing more information regarding the remains that were found. I believe it was last week. So we're going to keep an eye on that for you as well. Okay, you can get it both here and on air, too. I believe we're going to do a cut-in for that. So without further ado, we will go ahead and punch forward.
Yes, absolutely, which today is about weather forecasting instrumentation. going through all the different devices that we use on a daily basis. So why we record the weather, very important to consistently know what is happening in the past as well as the present and future. But how we get that data, how we use the data, an insider secret, and then your questions.
Yeah, we're chock full of good stuff with this particular unit today.
Absolutely.
So weather is all about patterns, and we talk about that day in and day out. We look at different patterns to help us predict what's going to happen in the future. So we recognize some of these different patterns bring us certain types of weather. For example, different pressure systems, high pressure versus low pressure. We usually know what's going to happen when one of those scoots through our region. So keeping records, it really helps us conduct research and allows us to make better predictions for the future. And these records, back in the, at least here in the Quad Cities, I believe date back all the way to the late 1800s. That's how far back you can go and look at some of these data points. In the famous picture there, you see Benjamin Franklin and his very famous experiment with the kite and electricity, lightning striking the kite. He's got the key as a conductor on the string there. Probably one of my favorite weather displays, if you will, from that time period. Really cool to look at, and the story behind it's really cool, of course, too.
Absolutely. I love that too. It's just makes you think about the weather history and how they had to figure out all this stuff on their own. I can't imagine it. That takes a lot of creativity.
Yes.
But why we record, weather records go, again, all the way back to the 1870s here in the Quad Cities. No computers back then. So this was all hand analysis. Keeping records was a full-time job in itself. So this picture that you're seeing, it's from 1877. It looks like October and November is what it is showing, but taking a lot of observations of, I can see the temperature, even the pressure, the dry bulb, the wet bulb, taking the max, the minimum temperatures, all these observations. And again, they're so, so important to today because we can look back and see what those trends were. And it helps us move forward and continue to learn things about the weather.
Yeah, and you're right. It literally was a full-time job because you're having to go in and out, look at all these instruments at different time points. So it is really neat to look at any of these books if you can get your hands on it, just to see that, yeah, we kind of measure these exact same parameters today, though it's a little more convenient with technology that we have. And here's an example. So this is how we record this information. You have these different types of sensors. You've got, of course, your standard thermometer, which is used to measure the temperature, how warm or cool the air is. The older styles, they actually used mercury in them, which expands with heat. As we know now, mercury is very toxic to us, so we have gotten away from using mercury, and now we use a different kind of solution with water and a few other chemicals in those red thermometers that you see there, the red tube thermometers. We have newer devices, too, that have circuits and sensors. For example, your home thermostat, you may no longer have one of those older ones that relies on a coiled spring to manually move the temperature indicator. You may have a nice digital one, maybe a programmable one. That's an example of how our temperature technology is changing. Our temperature measuring technology has changed. Think about also the digital thermostat in your car and the technology that that's using as well.
Yes, absolutely. Which I don't ever pay close attention to the thermostat in my car just because it always seems to be a couple degrees off. I don't know where, it probably depends on where it's located. Probably picking up a lot of the heat from roads and the car itself because it's a pretty dark car. Going into now a hygrometer, it is what measures humidity and water vapor. It relies on temperatures or dew point to determine this value. Very common in homes during the winter months because that's when we start to get that really dry air. And of course, we know, I think you want about like 30% humidity to be at least comfortable. I can't remember what the exact number is that you want your home to be, which I struggle with dry air in my home. I actually bought a humidifier during the winter because I just was waking up with dry, scratchy throats every single morning because of how dry that air is. But it definitely uses temperature or dew point to determine it, because there's plenty of equations out there that will convert this. But a huge thing, because we know that humidity really determines the comfort level of what it is outside, especially in the Midwest. But when dew point temperature equals that actual temperature, that's when we get 100% relative humidity. Obviously, when that's occurring, we're either getting rain, snow, precipitation, or if it's foggy out, that is when you know the relative humidity is 100%.
Yeah, that's one of the things we look at when we forecast 2-4 fog. We look and see, is the temperature actually going to meet up with the dew point and give us that 100% relative humidity? Key component to getting fog, which we see quite a bit of this time of year, especially even in the winter too. We'll see a lot of that. Some of the different sensor types that we look at, we have a barometer, which measures pressure. You may have a grandparent or maybe a parent that has one of these in their home. A lot of people had them on their walls at one point. I know both my grandparents had one of these hanging on the wall, and I always thought it was really cool to watch how it changed from day to day. But this measures pressure, of course. Low pressure means we're going to be dealing with rain and storms, because with low pressure, that air is allowed to freely rise, condense into clouds, and form rain. With high pressure, you're going to have cool and dry weather. And look what Morgan's got. She's actually got something that is like a barometer.
So this is kind of like a barometer, a fun barometer. Now, this is something that I don't know if this one actually works. There are pretty expensive ones that you can buy that you know are going to work. I know this is a cheaper one, but it does have a lot of crystals today, which I haven't been paying attention to it. I need to try to reset this and then take pictures, because now I know how this thing works. So we'll do different patterns, crystallization patterns, whether you have more, whether you have less. It depends on the pressure of the atmosphere. So when you get that swing in pressure, you'll see a change in the glass, which again, I haven't been paying attention to it. It's more like something pleasing to the eye, just a fun little knickknack to have on a shelf. But maybe that's something I'll do my own experiment and then post it on Facebook about this. But yeah, this is called a storm glass. You can search them, Amazon, Google, if you are interested in one of these. But again, the more expensive ones obviously are going to work better, but you can get cheap ones like this one. And again, it's kind of cool to look at. I do notice that it does change, but I just need to study it more in order to see how well it works. You're muted.
Oh, I forgot I hit that because the dog is trying to get in the room. But that is a neat piece of weather instrumentation that also works as art too. You can also see those glass tubes that have the different temperature bubbles in them as well. I see a lot of those that people have too. That's another neat one.
I want one.
They are neat.
I really want one. All right. So rain gauges. This is also something that I want. And I think even I live in an apartment and I'm on the higher level, but I think I could even try to get one of these. But a rain gauge measures obviously rainfall and snow melt. Many variations and sizes available. Also digital options if you want to get fancy. But I do know that the digital options can sometimes cause some irregular numbers between rain gauges. So if you want something that's super, super, super accurate, definitely just a simple tube rain gauge. The digital rain gauges often use a tipping bucket that trips a sensor each time it empties. So that one's nice because then it will do it for you. But if you were to get just one of those tube rain gauges, you would have to watch it and then dump it out before it gets too full and just record it to make sure that you know where it was.
Yeah, they are nice to have, and I think a lot of us can relate to the one on the left. You know, many people have one of those sticking in their garden or maybe on top of the clothesline pole or the mailbox. Very popular, but yeah, you can get the digital option too, which is a little bit easier to manage. We can talk about the different sensor types as Cooper attempts to enter the room. Will he be successful? Stand by and we'll find out here. But you can have different sensor types. So I actually have a weather station. This is a personal weather station that I can show you as an example. But the top term there, the anemometer, So that's what we use to measure the wind speed. That's this part right here. It comes in two pieces. So the wind actually pushes these cups around, and depending on how fast this is spinning, tells you the wind speed. And then, of course, you need to know the wind direction. So you've got the wind vane here on the bottom that will point also in the direction that the wind is blowing to. So they come in a couple different forms. You can get one with cups like this one has. They also come in fan form too, where it's got actual fan blades. And then now, the newest ones I've seen coming out are actually digital. And that's the picture you're seeing on your right-hand side there, where it uses actually the vibration of the wind itself to measure not only how fast it's going, but what direction it's coming for too. Those are still pretty expensive, and they're new to the market, but they don't have issues with freezing up in the winter, because a lot of times you can get a freezing rain or even just a rain that freezes these wind cups and renders them useless. So the digital kind of a nice one to go with if you deal with the climate that we have here, and if you have the money, of course, to shell out for it. And there's the quick fact that I just mentioned.
There you go. Now, take all these different sensor types, throw them into one Mac Daddy device. We have the most advanced sensor suite that we often will see at a lot of national weather services, because they're constantly giving us all those observations at the surface. So this one includes everything in one thing. So there it is. Often we call it an AWOS or AWOS, automated weather observing system. You get that visibility sensor, so it tells us what the visibility is in miles. Obviously, 10 miles is clear. We go all the way down. That's picking up some fog, or even heavy rain can reduce visibility. You can pick up cloud levels, so how low those clouds are hanging. Precipitation identifier, telling us freezing rain, drizzle, rain, heavy rain, snow, all the above. The rain sensor, and then we get that combined anemometer right there, and then obviously a little thing that is taking all this data, feeding it into a computer, and spitting it out onto, you can even find these observations on websites. Obviously the internet going to be a huge influence with finding these observations.
Yeah, there's a ton of data that you will see coming from these things, and they're at a lot of airports too. I know the airport in Whiteside County has one. I visited that one. Very impressive to see up close the amount of instrumentation that's involved. I would love to have one in my backyard, but I'm sure the FAA probably wouldn't approve of that, and my neighbors probably wouldn't appreciate it for that fact either. How we recorded back then, we didn't always have this technology, of course, so we went back to what I kind of like to call a weather instrument outhouse, because we didn't have plumbing way back when, and you had to use the outhouse to go to the restroom. Well, this was like our weather station outhouse, and it's stored inside a white wooden box. Why do you think it's white? Didn't we just talk about this?
We did.
Mm-hmm.
It was here last week.
Yep. So you remember last week we told you that white, the color white, has a very high albedo. It tends to reflect the majority of the sun's energy. And why would we want to do that with this particular instrumentation? Well, if you stick a thermometer right in the sun, you're not going to get an accurate temperature reading. You've seen that, especially if your car has sat maybe in the dark black parking lot with that new pavement, and you go to start your car and it's like, it's 129 degrees outside according to my car. Well, this is the same concept. We measure the temperature in the shade, because that's the actual apparent temperature. So that's why it's in the white box. The box is usually located about 5 to 6 feet above the ground. Why? That's how tall we are. Why would we put the box all the way on the ground? We don't live down there. We don't crawl on our hands and knees all day. We're upstanding and walking around. And there's also no reason for us to put it way up in the air, because again, none of us are over probably 7 feet tall on this planet, unless you've got some really good genes and you're a good basketball player. But that's why. A lot of common sense built into that. So that's actually, I think, the same thing I did last time. I forgot I had that in there twice.
Or that may have been my fault. We'll just ignore it. So what is inside, as Andrew said, it's just, there's some that will have more fancier things inside it, but Generally, and this was just for temperature observation, so you usually will find two thermometers, one that will be used to measure that high temperature and one that would be used to measure that low temperature. And sometimes, like I said, you will find more. Usually a barometer was also located inside. And then this one has fancy wet bulb thermometers as well, and a dry bulb thermometer, which helps us determine humidity levels and all that stuff.
Yeah, this one's getting really fancy with the multiple thermometers located in there too. They also occasionally had barometers in there as well, and yeah, you can see usually barometers located inside, and they'd also keep their weather journal in there too for the most part, so it's all in one place. They still exist. You can still find some scattered about in different areas, even close to here. We also use airplanes to record some weather data too. This was really noticeable during the height of the pandemic, when people were not flying, when we were not getting the amount of airplanes in the air that we are today. These airplanes, they actually have onboard sensors that provide us with data including temperature, wind, and humidity. And they can add in upwards of 130,000 observations per day, which is a lot. This is almost like sending up a weather balloon each time a plane is landing or taking off. So it's really, really helping out us get more data into the models to make them a little bit more accurate. And we really did notice that the models were struggling a lot when we were in the height of the pandemic because we had no airplane traffic or very little airplane traffic. It's picking back up now, which is good. We're getting more data. But it was incredible to see that, just how much of an impact that loss of data had an impact on our models. And it was the worst time of year too, because you're talking about spring, and then of course it happened again this winter as the surges were occurring.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And it's good to see that we are picking that back up to get more data. But also, I've shadowed with some National Weather Service meteorologists that do work at an airport, and they kind of showed me the system that they can see all the airplanes sending back this data in real time. And even pilots have the abilities that if they run into like a special instance, like maybe a pocket of turbulence that they weren't expecting, they can send that right back and send in special notes. So airplanes do a lot more than just transport people.
Yes, they have a lot of instruments on board, which is extremely helpful. Here's a throwback to, it's probably been almost 2 years now, maybe a year and a half.
About a year and a half
when we got to go to the National Weather Service that one morning, early in the morning, where we got to see a weather balloon launch, thanks to our friend Peter Speck, who's a meteorologist there, invited us out to see how it worked. You can tell it's pre-pandemic because there's no mask wearing going on there. But these weather balloons we launch twice a day. They sample different layers of the atmosphere. They provide temperature, wind speed, direction, humidity, dew point, and pressure data. And I get a lot of people that ask me, well, what happens to these balloons when they pop and they fall back to Earth? As far as I know, they're a biodegradable substance in terms of the balloon itself. And then what you're seeing inside of the box that hangs down from the balloon comes in cardboard packaging. A lot of times people will find it. It's got like a prepaid envelope so you can send it back to the National Weather Service so they can use it again. But they're really neat to see take off in person. There's your quick fact. The weather balloons fall back to Earth after popping at extreme heights because the less pressure you have, the more that balloon is free to expand. And sometimes they're found and returned.
And not too long ago, we had a very interesting instance of where a balloon landed. The National Weather Service in Lincoln launched, and it landed right at the National Weather Service in Indianapolis. Right at their location is where it landed.
Wasn't that something?
So funny, so funny. My school used to launch these, but they took away funding for that, so I missed out on that. But happy I got to at least go and see one for myself from the National Weather Service.
It is really cool to see, and we still have the video on our Facebook page too. If you scroll back far enough, you can probably find it. But yeah, these are not cheap. They're expensive to do, and that's why we're limited to 2 a day. Now, on a severe weather day, sometimes they'll do a special third one, maybe even a fourth one, depending on the setup. But yeah, we're limited to 2 a day, which is kind of sucky because if we had more of these, our models would be even more accurate. But unfortunately, that's just how it works.
Absolutely. And here is a picture of kind of what the final product of a weather balloon launch would look like. This is what we call a skew-T chart, and it tells you the temperature, the dew point on it, and from just the temperature and the dew point plus wind direction and all that stuff, we can get a boatload of information spit out from this graphic. And now this is a very hard concept to understand, a very hard graphic to understand. There was an entire class that covered basically just this chart, how to calculate it, how to do it, how to hand draw it. Mm-hmm. I have nightmares from that class. It was a hard class.
Yes, I had similar nightmares as well. Yeah, you're given the data in text form, and here's your skew-T diagram. Go ahead and plot the temperature and the dew point and measure the CAPE, and oh my goodness, it is a very hard concept to grasp. Even for those of us that went into meteorology, it took several attempts to get that down. But yeah, very confusing. We don't really show that on the air a whole lot, just because nobody knows how to read it except for us.
Yes.
We use a lot of the data, of course, not only from the airplanes, but the weather balloons and the weather instruments on the ground. We can use that for our computer modeling. The more data we have, the better the model will be. That will really increase its accuracy overall. Models are actually able to pick up on trends. They have a little bit of what I like to call built-in artificial intelligence, if you will. We use a lot of analogs, which is past weather events, because that gives us an idea of something. If it happened in the past with these set of conditions, it could happen again, and they kind of reproduce it that way. They can run these models as frequently as an hour. We have the high-resolution rapid refresh model, which does that. Our in-house IBM graph model is also run hourly. Other models are run once every 6 hours, some once every 12 hours. The ones that are run with more space between them, for example, the 12-hour ones, those would be the models that take us out further into the future, say a week to 2 weeks into the future. Whereas the ones that are run hourly, those are the ones that really focus on the near term and are really helpful for things like severe weather events.
Yes, beautifully said. We also, obviously, this plays a huge role into climate. These observations over hundreds of years and going forward, it's going to be even more important to us in climate research and climate study. Observation data over long periods of times can give us clues. Are we warming? Are we cooling? Are extreme weather events becoming more common? And here's kind of where we are for 2021. We are way above average in snowfall for the year so far. It does look like we are right on average, right on the money for rainfall. You can kind of see how it's just following that trend. And you can definitely pick out February on that temperature graph.
You are not.
You see that nice dip? There's February.
Oh, that's scary to see.
Oh yeah, that was a brutal month.
Let's not do that again.
March has been nice to us. March was like, we're going to come in. We're just going to help you guys out here. We're going to give you a sense of warmth back, which was great.
Yeah, I love the fact that we really made up for that really quickly and we turned it around. That data is always freely available to any of you, and there's a treasure trove of data too. If you go to weather.gov/Quad Cities, that's where you can get the data, like the chart that you're seeing here. You can also get past records from that same website. If you want backyard weather stations like the one that I have here in Geneseo, you go to a different website. That's Weather Underground. That's actually owned by the Weather Channel. They've merged the two together. You may have seen the Weather Underground show. That's the same website. So the Weather Underground has all the backyard weather stations that are closest to you. And then weather.gov/Quad Cities will have all of the official airport and National Weather Service observation stations.
And lastly, if you want to join the cause and you want to help out yourself with weather observations, you can join this community, Coco Roz, and start contributing yourself. You can report rainfall reports, snowfall reports, and hail reports. And actually, what is funny is we just talked about this in this previous weekend. We did a little media get-together with the National Weather Service over Zoom, and they talked about this, and it's actually something I really didn't know much about. but it's something that I even want to start doing. So you can go on, you can learn what you need to do. You have to get a very specific rain gauge for it in order to give your observations, but you just go on and you just give your observation once a day. It takes only a couple minutes. And they did say they really, really need people in rural areas to join and help out. They have a lot of areas, a lot of people in the Quad Cities registered and a lot of those bigger towns and cities. But if you are in a rural area, you could be a huge contributor to all these reports.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the map right now of the reporting locations. Jackson County is completely empty. Carroll County, there's only one person observing in Carroll County right now. Bureau County, there's only one person in Princeton. I know there's more people in Bureau County that follow the weather than just one person in Princeton. Henry County, where I'm at right now, we need more people down towards Galva, Kewanee. We need people near Aledo. Totally empty. The other county in Iowa that's totally empty, Cedar County. If you know anybody in Cedar County, Iowa, join Cocoa Ross. There's a lot of empty
I know my
spaces.
grandma lives in Cedar County. I might have to put her on the cause.
Yeah. Maybe get her a weather station or something.
Yeah. We need to get her. Come on, Grandma, you need to help.
Yes. You'll be the official one for Cedar County.
And there she goes.
Speaking of weather stations, if you're interested to see kind of what they look like price-wise, I know my picture's kind of blocking that, so I'm going to end this and scoot it over so you can see here. That might be a little bit easier to see. But they come in all different shapes and sizes and prices, and depending on what your budget is. I'm just pulling three ones that I'm familiar with, that I know that are on the market, that have a pretty good reputation. So if you're looking for a budget weather station, the AccuRite line is not bad. You can find that on Amazon. What's nice about a lot of these stations is they're smart weather stations, meaning they will hook up to your home's Wi-Fi network and they will send data to the Weather Underground, or they'll send it to other programs too, like the Citizens Weather Observation Program is another one. The APRS Weather Network is another one. All of these, the National Weather Service can also tap into as well to see what's going on. So the AccuRite's going to be your budget weather station. It measures everything, including the wind, temperature, rain, wind direction as well. If you want to get a little fancier, you can go up to the Tempest weather station. That's the one that's got that digital wind speed detector. So you're going to pay a little bit more in terms of a premium price for that. But it is a fully featured smart weather station in that look at how compact and small it is. There's not a whole lot to it. If you're a weather weenie like Morgan and myself, that's the one that I personally have as the Vantage View, which is the most expensive one. On the left of your screen there, in fact, that's exactly what this is. It's the Vantage View. Again, it measures everything from rain to wind speed, wind direction. The only disadvantage to this one is you do have to buy another expensive add-on to get the data out into the internet. It's about another $100 to get that add-on. But in terms of the name, Davis is a pretty big name in the industry. They have been in weather stations for a number of years. I've owned at least 3-4 different Davis models since I started following weather. In fact, the one I have in Sterling at my mom's house is a Davis weather station that's still going strong. But all three of these, great recommendations. So if you're looking for a gift for the weather weenie in your life, any one of those three is good. And I'll put a footnote. This is not a paid endorsement. I'm not being paid to endorse any of these. I'm just going off of personal experience, if you will, in owning some of these various weather stations. So you got all sorts of price points to work with. Pick one that fits your budget and have fun with it. I mean, it is really cool to see this information live anytime you want to. I was hoping it would go back to the end, but it didn't.
Oh boy.
We'll
All right.
go for your questions.
All right. I have my page pulled up, which I did not see anything.
Cool. Let's see if mine works today. I've had some good luck in the last few runs here of getting mine to display itself.
All right. In the meantime, I got WQAD's page. We got, of course, Seth from Clear Lake. checking in. Hi, Seth.
All right.
We have Abkar saying he misses East Moline. Quad Cities is a nice little gem, I will agree.
Aw.
Betty says, I miss all of you and Channel 8. Come back, please. Again, we have no information.
Sorry.
We hope soon. We hope soon. Dana checking in from DeWitt. Jan checking in from Cambridge. Also says she misses seeing our show, but I assure you, we miss having you guys all checking in. But there's also multiple ways to get our show still. So, Marcia checking in from Galesburg, and she says, hope these winds stop soon. Yes. Marcia, I say buckle up for a little bit longer. This is definitely a windy season. Tina saying happy hump day to us. It's Wednesday. Day. Beautiful day in Galva. Keep it going. Have a great rest of your day and evening. You too, Tina. And then Scott stopping by for a little bit saying good information. I need to get back to work. But thanks for taking the minute to jump on and listen for a little bit. And that's all I see on that.
All right. I was able to get mine to come up here. Let's see who we've got today. We've got Linnell, good friend from up north watching with us. I'm talking about the temperatures in our car. She said her van at 119 said it was 43 up there in Elizabeth. That might be the warmest reading in the whole area.
Yeah.
Aaron saying, so glad we're teaching the public this information. Thank you. That's a good compliment there. She also loves my shirt. Go Huskies. This is getting faded, though. I'm going to have to make a trip up to the bookstore up there or the apparel shop soon to get a new one because this one has seen its better days. I'm
not even representing my school.
Oh, you got
North Carolina. They got out of March Madness, unfortunately.
It's been a crazy March Madness. I'm glad I didn't do a bracket because I know it would not.
Oh, I did too. Both of them are trash.
It's awful. Erin was right. She said it's because albedo.
Good question. Job, Erin.
That's awesome. Linnell says her brother is not far away from 7 feet tall. He's 6'7".
I am short, so a lot of people are way taller than me. My neck would be like this.
We've got Bruce saying when he was a little kid, he took a trip to the Whiteside County Airport. The man came out with a huge helium balloon. He let it go and counted. That's cool. I didn't know that.
I will say they're not helium filled anymore.
Yes, that's right. They're filled with isn't it
hydrogen?
Hydrogen. My car tires are filled with nitrogen. Let's see. Lena also saying her aunt, is it Twyla or Twila? I think it's probably Twyla. Used to do that up in Joe Davis County. Nice. Probably for Cocoa Roz, yeah.
Yes, for Cocoa Roz. Nice.
That's awesome. Chris Bishop checking in saying hello. He enjoyed this. Erin is a meteorology major. I'm assuming she goes to Northern Illinois University.
Yes, we love aspiring meteorologists.
That's awesome. Well, Erin, if you have any questions at all, you can feel free to give us a shout, especially if you're interested in going into the broadcast industry. We're always happy to guide folks along and answer your questions with that. But go Huskies! You got some good staff up there to teach you all you need to know. That's a good time.
Hopefully, I wish we could offer a visit, but obviously, still on lockdown at the station.
Yes. Hopefully soon things will even out and we'll be able to have visitors and tours back in, but I think it's going to be a while probably before that can happen, unfortunately. But we know that day will eventually get here. It's eventually going to get here.
Yes.
Well, we're all caught up, and just in time, because I do want to hop off and give the space to the folks on the news side. Again, they're going to be holding a press conference. This is literally breaking news that we're waiting for. A press conference from the Davenport Police Department scheduled to begin in about 3 minutes. They're going to be talking about the remains, the human remains that were found in DeWitt last week. We're going to be streaming that live, not only on WQAD.com, right here on Facebook, I believe. And I just opened up our app, and we are streaming this live on the app, too. So you can catch the press conference there. I've been watching, for our folks back at the station, it sounds like we are going to take this live on the main on-air channel as well. So
I'm about to turn it on.
She's going to turn it on, and we're going to take that press conference here in about 3 minutes. This is definitely something that's been very much buzz, if you will. A lot of people talking about this when it happened last week because we have a number of missing persons cases from the Davenport area, unfortunately, and we're anxiously awaiting to hear more information about that. So about 2 minutes away, we'll see the press conference begin here if it's on time. You can catch it on WQAD.com right now or tune into our main channel on the air. I believe we're going to cut into programming to carry that conference because it is a pretty substantial development, if you will, news-wise.
Yes, absolutely. I just saw that. We will have an anchor cutting in, giving us info of what's going on once they do start. So yes, you have multiple ways to be able to watch this news or this press conference.
Yep, we've got you covered. So we're going to go ahead and we'll turn it over to the news side here. You probably get a notification here momentarily that we're going to be live. You guys enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. We're going to see you back here next week. As far as I know, schedules are good, so we will be back next week, 1 o'clock for day 22.
Doppler radar.
Yes. And we're going to try to be at a special location for the next one. We're going to have a lot of fun with that, so stay tuned. We'll see you guys next week.